Time now to get the latest trends in dive retailing, travel, and training with Level Up, the podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Now, here's your host, Scuba Radio's Greg the Dive Master.
That is me. I am Greg the Dive Master. Check out Scuba Radio every Saturday, 3 to 5 Eastern Time. However, today it is time for another Level Up podcast, which is the official podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. The man behind the madness, Willie Cline, with me. Before we get to all our writers, how you doing, Willie?
Everybody, I'm doing great. It's been a great weekend. We got a great show. It's been a fabulous issue. So once again, we had so much content that we had to push a bunch of stuff to next month, which is just a wonderful problem to have. So
Yes.
I'm ready to jump into today's show. It's going to be a great show.
Absolutely. And so much has been going on. I mean, not only got all the writers lined up for the magazine, but we just did our first West Coast show. We're getting ready. We're between West Coast, East Coast. It's like gangland for the dive industry, kind of. You know, West Coast, East Coast. We'll have to see how this competes. I don't think that was the plan, but I threw it in there, Willie. What do you think?
Well, I think you're right. The highlight for me, and I know Britton's going to talk a little bit about the show, was having Kava with Morgana and you and Kristen.
He remembers that.
And the Fiji Warriors, at the Pearl booth. That was kind of fun.
Yeah,
so,
Britton, have you recovered is the question, I guess.
I have. It's crazy what a good night's sleep will do, but I have.
The Kava will help.
The Kava does help.
Yes, if you've never done a Kava ceremony in Fiji or in the Fiji booth with the folks at the Scuba Show or DEMA or wherever they can pull it off, it's quite a treat, a cultural exchange, and it also kind of has that Fijian beer vibe going on there too. So it'll make you feel good, and your lips tingle.
We get a little lips a little numb. But before we get in, I have a little special announcement I want to make.
Yeah.
Today happens to be somebody's 87th birthday. So we're dedicating this show to Mr. Tom Leaird of Leaird's Underwater Service in Muncie, Indiana, and SCI. So thank you, Tom, and happy birthday.
There we go.
We'll hear from them a little later on.
All right. Fair enough. All right. So that's going on. Did we cover everything Britton wants to cover, or you got more?
No, he's got some stuff he wants to talk about the show.
Yeah. Let's go,
That's
Britton.
right.
What do you got?
Hi, everyone. I'm super stoked to see everyone. I just really wanted to kind of hop on, say a quick thank you to everyone who was able to stop by our booth and likewise at the Scuba Show in Long Beach. But it was such a great weekend. The traffic was great. The weather was great. And honestly, it was awesome just to see everybody be in the same room as everyone in the industry. And shows like this are always a great reminder of how connected this industry is, and I think how much more connected than maybe we forget that we are. We got to catch up with a lot of longtime friends, meet some new folks, talk with advertisers, retailers, travel partners, training agencies, manufacturers, and a whole lot of dive pros who are doing really exciting things. But just keep an eye on our YouTube channel for all those interviews from the show floor.
Yeah, Britton, didn't we do like 14 shows?
We did.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
West Coast represent.
Yeah. Britton was a busy boy.
That's right. But we also want to wish everyone heading to the Atlantic City show a very successful and safe show, whether you're exhibiting, attending, speaking even, or really just going to connect with people or the industry. I hope, and we hope, that it's a great, safe weekend for you guys. Other than that, we're in our official DEMA countdown. As of today, we're 153 days out, which I know it sounds like a lot, but if you're in the industry, you know how quickly that goes, and you know how fast it sneaks up. So we're going to be distributing our special DEMA issue in the lobby again at the DEMA registration desks, so your messages can be seen right in front of the folks as they're arriving to the show. As for exhibitors, the moment to start getting in front of people is right now.
Yeah, that's so true.
We have 4 issues left before DEMA, which means 4 big chances to keep your name, your booth, your specials, your new products, and trips too, right at the top of the minds of folks as they're getting onto the show floor. But if you guys are exhibiting, please reach out. Let's chat about how we can, help build you guys some more momentum before you get to the show. But other than that, that's all I got. And good luck and safe travels to everyone headed to Atlantic City.
Yeah, you're gonna have to change your approach with your interviews in Atlantic City. Like, all right, it's time to do some interviews with the, with the Scuba Magazine or Scuba Diving Industry Magazine podcast, and it's gonna happen right here.
That's
right
right.
here in New Jersey, the center of
right
diving.
here in New Jersey.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not.
Hey, so a shout out. Thank you, Brittany, for that great show report. Again, it was a great show. Congratulations to the Roark Media folks. This is their first year running that show from Mark Young's passing the torch to him. Congratulations, guys. And
Mark and
I know
Ross
you're going to do some great things. They sure are. So this month's issue, I want to point out this really awesome cover here was shot in Tonga by a photographer named Grant Thomas. And I came across him because he's in the World Shootout right now in the finale. So if you got that emailer, vote for Grant. That's actually one of his images that's in the World Shootout finalist. And we have another one coming up in a couple of months by another gentleman by the name of Martin Bauer, but that's from the same shootout. So he's an award-winning, fantastic photographer. And thank you for this really cool shot. Turns out, he says, it was just an impromptu shot. I just happened to have my camera with me. I happened to be snorkeling, and I looked up and saw these kayakers and shot, and it just came out perfect. But of course, that's what a true photo pro does, is just makes accidentally great shots.
Captures the magic. Yes.
That's right. All right.
All right. First author that we got up from Scuba Diving Industry Magazine, Cathryn Castle. She's in the Azores, as usual. Page 16 on this month's issue, Scuba's next happy hour, from mocktails to mast straps. So tell us what this new trending happy hour is and what it is all about.
I love
Cathryn.
this article.
Well, brace yourself, because what I'm proposing wasn't the way it used to be, Greg, back in the day. And where the industry is now, well, the beverage industry is now moving more towards a sober, curious crowd than an alcohol crowd. What we're seeing is a trend in infused waters, kombuchas, vitamins, herbs, minerals, botanicals, all that are supporting the wellness industry rather than the alcohol industry.
My liver thanks you.
Right? I mean, I figure you might be like going, wait, what? What just happened? But so just to drive this home, this is a $152 billion industry this year. This is not a passing fad. We're old enough to remember the days before bottled water, and when, like, Starbucks isn't going to be a thing, really. But bottled water is a thing, Starbucks is a thing, and the sober curious movement is a thing. It's going to go over 240 billion by 2031. And we need to be capitalizing on that, because if we are presenting the scuba diving experience as a wellness experience, as a health experience, we can ride the wave on that market.
I like it. Can you be like sober fluid and kind of bounce back between the two?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I am. I'm sorry.
Exactly. You can get your kombucha on and then go right back to your Kettle One. It's not going to hurt anybody to pivot back and forth. But if you see somebody, like, let's say you're a dive center owner or staff, and you see somebody drinking a wellness drink or a beverage that you're not familiar with, ask them what it is. Ask them why they bought it. And there you can take the marketing leads from that, because look at what PepsiCo is doing. Look at what Coca-Cola is doing. Look at what Monster and Red Bull are doing. And we need to be capitalizing on that, because we have scuba diving as the best thing ever. We can market to this sober, curious crowd and this wellness crowd in a way that's going to be bringing more money into the dive center. With people, I'm so tired of people saying, "Oh, nobody's spending any money anymore." Well, yeah, they're spending money. They're just not spending it with you because you're not doing anything new and exciting. So, but look where the money is. Look where people are buying, and adjust your marketing strategies for that. Especially with the Discover Diving. Discover Scuba Diving is one of the cash cows if we bill it as a wellness experience. So give that a try.
I like it.
And you know what? It's awesome for a dive shop, because a sober happy hour is a fraction of the cost.
What'd you say?
A dive retail super center.
There you go.
it's cheap for them to hold a happy hour.
Yes, and you can do it with an infused beverage and teach them some mocktails that you learned on your last Caribbean trip or a trip out to the Pacific. Use fruit juices and maybe grate some fresh coconut or slice up some pineapple. You can bouge it up without the booze.
I love it.
Okay. Good stuff as always, Cathryn. And
Thanks, man.
yeah.
Good to see you.
It's great to see you. All right, let's move to our next author. This is very timely. He's always right. He has, his hand on the pulse of the dive industry for sure. And of course, I'm talking about Dan Orr. Page 6 in Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Lobsters are optional. Safety is not. Very timely because Florida spiny lobster season, or lobster season in California for that matter, is getting ready to open up here towards the end of July. So what are some ways, Dan, that retailers can reduce accidents? Because that's the big problem that we have every year, and it kind of puts a damper on the fun of just catching those bugs and having a lobster feast.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, the lobster season, that mini lobster season in Florida, and also the beginning of recreational season there in California is a very dangerous time because over the years, there have been over 100 accidents involving people who are participating in that lobster mini season. A lot of them are things, for example, like forgetting to have a dive flag and being hit by a boat, or doing things they shouldn't do by not clearing their areas properly. And then, of course, there are also about 2 fatalities every year. In fact, it was interesting because I'm also going to be writing an article about the California lobster season. And I wrote to John Cades, who works for the coroner's office there in LA County. And I asked him about that. And in fact, he even presented something about that during their seminar at the Scuba Show. And on the first day of their lobster season over the last number of years, there have been 9 fatalities. Because you have people who've been out of the water for a long time and are trying to come back into the water when they're competing with other people for lobsters. So they pay more attention to the lobster than they do their own safety. And so dive centers can do a lot. I mean, they can inform their customers, they can inform their students, or they're doing training programs. They can take the last page of this article, this newsletter, this magazine, and post it on the front door of their dive center because it talks about the fact that there are dangers during the lobster mini season.
No doubt about it. I mean, and also an extra pair of eyes. You know, I remember years ago I was on the dive boat for mini season here in Florida, and I found it, mildly amusing, but I probably should have said something because I knew this was an accident waiting to happen. But these guys showed up on the boat that I haven't dove in a while, and then instead of a wetsuit, they had a mechanic's outfit, like bib overalls, and that's what they were, to go lobster. I'm like, this doesn't look like the ultimate, type of dive attire that I would expect to see. And of course, they caught a few bugs and left them on the bottom floor, came up, hey, you have the bugs? No, I thought you had them. It was one of those kind of things. And just an accident waiting to happen. And
it really is, because again, they haven't been in the water in a long time. They probably haven't had their gear updated or gear serviced properly during the past year. There are a lot of things they neglect because they're totally focused on capturing those lobsters.
Mm-hmm. Got to jump in and help them maybe a little bit too.
Yeah, so as it says, lobsters are optional, safety is not.
No doubt about it.
Dan also did this really cool poster. It's the inside back cover of this issue, which all should be in the mail right now. But the inside back cover I'm showing you is my backdrop there. It's a removable poster that a dive shop can take out and they can post it on their window or whatever at their counter. It's also have a QR code on it. It's QR coded in all the versions of our magazines, and it can download as a direct PDF as well. So a dive shop, they want to print out a poster or something, they can. Thank you, Tom, for that, or Dan, for that really great art.
Yeah, and I sent a copy of that recently to Bob Holston down in Key West, and he's going to share that with the U.S. Coast Guard. They're actually going to be printing some of these and distributing some of these also.
That's very cool.
Good stuff.
Nicely done.
One superstar to another. Margo Peyton, she wrote page 52, Dive with Dad, Building Family Bonds Below the Surface. So how can retailers capitalize on Father's Day, which is coming up June 21st, Margo? And welcome, by the way.
Yes. Welcome, Margo.
Thanks for having me again, and happy early Father's Day to all you dads there too.
Thank you.
And just first off, we celebrate Mother's Day and Father's Day, but we're focused on Father's Day for this particular issue. And that's something that for me with Family Dive Adventures, I've seen so many more dads bringing their families in, bringing their kids and wives that don't dive, bringing them into diving because dads love to dive with their families. And that's something that I think all dive shops can capitalize on and really bring in not only new business but revive business, because for me, grandparents, granddads are coming with their sons and their grandkids too, and that's a really special moment. Those are memories that are created for a lifetime. I'm running a special 50% off dad promotion with my trips this year. I think that's really cool. I get a lot of moms that call and they want to buy dad a new BCD. They want to get dad some new fins. The kids and the family together want to try to get dad some new gear. So there's a lot of really good gear options with specials for Father's Day. Trips are a great opportunity. Again, dads love diving with their families. A lot of them dreaming since the kids were born of having their best buddy ever. So one of the things that I see an increase in is 10, 11, and 12-year-olds that are coming in with their dads that have been dreaming for years about having their new dive buddy. Classes. This is a cool thing when parents are starting to dive with their kids. Safety classes and classes on learning how to be a better buddy. That's something that we teach at Kids Sea Camp. And also classes for the kids too, the junior rescue. I've got dads that are taking rescue classes with their kids. I've got a couple of dads this year doing Dive Master with their kids. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to bring in new business, to reinvigorate business, and to offer some really cool specials for dads.
Love it.
I love it.
Dad's Dive
Cool.
Day. Well, way better than socks or a tie that I would never wear.
But you would be surprised probably how few shops do anything special around Father's Day, or Mother's Day for all that matters. I mean, what a brilliant idea of really capitalizing on something that can bring in multi-generational business. And that's what you're all about. And that is teaching, not just for the sake of our industry, but it's good business. You get a family involved, you got 4 people traveling and 4 people buying gear, and then you bring in grandma and grandpa, and there you go. You got the means to pay for it all.
and like Cathryn said, people are looking for new ideas, refreshing things to do.
Yeah.
So I think that, that's something that dive shops can easily engage in. It's a lot of fun. And, like I said in my article, you don't even necessarily have to be a biological dad. You can be a mentor for a kid.
Yes, that's a great
a
point.
father-like figure.
That's a great idea. Great stuff. And thank you again, Margo, for submitting such a great article. Keep those ideas coming.
Thank you.
There you go. All right. So we're going to go to Alex, or have we?
Yeah. So Tom, if you get your audio situation sorted, nope, still it's not working. So maybe we can circle back to you. I want to preface, Alex, if you don't mind, the intro a little bit about this. I received a press release, because we do free press releases for anybody that in our industry. If you just send them to us, we publish them on our website. They push them out to all our social medias. It's just a service we do for the industry. So I received a press release from a scholar from University, I believe it's of Sydney, someplace right in Australia. And it was a press release for a study that had just been completed, and there was an embargo on it till like a couple of days ago. So first thing I did is forward it to my good friend Alex here, and we had a lot of dialogue back and forth and chat about it. And so I'm setting that up because this is the question that you're going to ask him is truly the right question. So Greg, go ahead and continue if you want.
Yeah, it's on page 39. What the new Southeast Asia study means for dive operators. The question is, what is this seismic level study and its possible impact on diving tourism? Alex, what can you tell us?
Well, let me preface this a bit. I began looking at the academic literature on diver impact back when I went back to grad school in the early 90s, and have followed it pretty closely ever since. And I have to say that Dr. Bing Lin, who was the author, completed this as part of his dissertation at Princeton University, and he's now a fellow at the University of Sydney, I believe. And this truly is, I would say, a pinnacle, because over the years, obviously, there's been a massive increase in our knowledge about this topic, and as well as the technology. And what he's done in this study is just mind-boggling in terms of its comprehensive nature, its robust analytical conclusions and insights. And I really think it's kind of the state of the art. And I think it has been getting broad press. In fact, I just saw an article in what's it called, the Global Travel Network, an online magazine. So this could well have some consequence. One of the things that makes it unique is that he studied 738 divers, not he and colleagues, and observed 308 hours of video. Now, what he did was take basically the video transect technique we use in ecological restoration or ecological studies, and applied it here, in that the entire dive was video. It wasn't a matter of randomly looking for divers who kicked the reef and this kind of stuff, which has been pretty much the methodology in the past. So armed with that and the ability to go back into the lab or office and go through very, very thoroughly, not only the fact that some impact has been made, but whether it was damaging, whether it was intentional. If it was damaging, was it a matter of siltation? Was it a matter of breakage? And so I was very impressed, and looking specifically at fin kicks, camera impacts, gauges and hoses, as I said, sedimentation, intentional stabilization touches, and uniquely in this study, wildlife-related related positioning behavior, and I'll come back to that. And so kudos to, and I have had a conversation or a dialogue with Dr. Lynn Sintz, great guy who's a very experienced diver and very, very supportive, I would add, of the dive industry, which his comments at the end of my article were put in for that specific purpose. As an academic, you always have to be cautious not to overgeneralize the implications of any study. And one issue, of course, comes up. This was conducted in Indonesia, at Philippines, and I believe Thailand. And of course, the Indo-Pacific is not the Atlantic. We all recognize that. But I want to make some observations there. I believe studies that come from the Indo-Pacific are more valid for an easy reason, and that is the degradation of Caribbean reefs is such that it's very unlikely a diver touching the bottom is going to damage coral, because there isn't much coral left. If you're diving in the Florida Keys with 1% to 2%, or in some of the areas of the better areas of the Caribbean of 10%, that means you have a 90+%. If you touch the bottom, you're not going to damage coral. In the Indo-Pacific, where you still have areas that have 40+%, I think you get a more representative idea of just how divers are impacting the bottom. Let me let my cat out. Yes. Get out of here. Scram.
All right, cat break. That's fine.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. You may continue.
I love that.
The other unique aspect of this is that he looked at it, as I said, with regard to whether is there change in behavior when there is wildlife interaction, and likewise, he also included a survey of divers to self-report their opinion of their buoyancy control, and overwhelmingly, they reported their competence. In fact, as he brings out in the study, this is the Dunning-Kruger effect, that those with the least amount of experience tend to be those that overestimate their capability, knowledge, et cetera. And so that really wasn't surprising. In fact, most of the outcomes were really a confirmation of what we've found in the past. Those being overwhelmingly most impacts are unintentional. They're unintended fin kicks. People who wear gloves, surprise, surprise, touch the reef more than those who don't. Photographers are prone to more. And in this study, he actually alleges that the divers with the larger, more sophisticated systems were the ones that were touching the reef more. And that's, frankly, that has been concluded in other studies as well. So there's been a lot of confirmation of what we've found in previous studies. But the other thing that, as I said, this wildlife, what did he call it again? Wildlife related positioning behavior. And what he found, it's probably common sense, is that when there is some, charismatic megafauna or whatever around, divers will get a little bit lapse in their awareness, in order to reestablish their position and do whatever. And so he does, make that point. And the bottom line is that, what are the conclusions from this? And the conclusions are pretty simple and I think commonsensical. We really need to do a better job with buoyancy control and training. If we continue to put people out and certified in 3 days, surprise, surprise, this is going to continue to happen. So the general competence of divers needs to be improved. So, the second was, of course, better awareness. He found that in operations that are eco-certified, there is a reduction in the contact, as you might expect. There needs to be probably a little bit better management of groups that are engaging with wildlife interactions so that they're more careful. Mm-hmm. There needs to be more thorough photography protocols. You may be aware, in fact, that Thailand has actually prohibited camera use by divers who don't have at least an advanced certification. So this trend is beginning to, catch on, so to speak.
There's a little round thing in
there. Yeah. By the way, Tom, we got you now.
You got me?
Yeah,
no
so
problem.
Just stand by.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
His mic started working. I'm like, wait a minute. Is that Alex's cat sabotaging them right now? What's going on?
I know.
No, but all this stuff you're bringing up, Alex, I mean, like you said, a lot of this we've known for years, I think is very true.
God, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, so the answer is what do you think? More education? We got to train better divers so they know to stay off the reef better?
That we've known that for a long time. I think issues such as more in-water supervision. And we know, of course, that if we put people in the water, dive masters, guides, etc., and they intercede when they see something happening when it happens, not an hour later in a briefing or back, in the restaurant, and approach things in a friendly, non-confrontational way, but overtly make this part of the process.
Don't call them out, but try to help them. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is that's the point that he makes about the study in general. Mm-hmm. In the quote I conclude with, and that this is not a condemnation. This is an opportunity to fix what the issue is, and that's lack of awareness, lack of competence, and a call for the industry to take a more overt and
proactive.
Proactive approach to it.
Wouldn't it come down to one simple word, buoyancy, right? Buoyancy.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. In my view, aside from not holding your breath, the most important thing you learn as a diver.
Yeah.
So,
dude, you're making us look bad. Here, let me help you out here.
I'm sure a lot of it contributes from overweighting because the dive guides just want to get them down, Mm-hmm. We all seen it on the boats. We all know exactly the person plummets to the bottom and then they figure out their buoyancy and all that. So go ahead, Alex.
And we are responding to that. The whole trend toward neutral buoyancy training, mm-hmm. buoyancy first, all that kind of sort of thing is being finally catching on broadly and not just sporadically by by a small number of dive instructors. Mm-hmm. So I think it's, the study basically continues to point the way and validate some of the things that we've seen as professionals as well. So kudos to Dr. Lynn.
It was and it is an amazing study. What my concern was, and that Alex and I have talked about this, is like you said, applying the science to the world. This was done in a very limited area. You really need to have expanded it to a place like Bahamas and Cayman and Cozumel and, a few of the mainstream Hawaii, Western, where you get the heavily influenced Western divers. I mean, I know that I've done probably 1,000 dives managing staff at Stewart Coves over the last 15 to 20 years as part of contract work I've done with them. And I don't see the level of impact to the reef that he's showing, even with cruise ship divers. So it could also be some regional variations is what I'm saying as well.
Possible. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. I hope this inspires another researcher to take it further and duplicate his study somewhere in the Western Atlantic here.
That's really what's needed. If you're out there in your university, listen to us. We need your help. Texas A&M, I know you got a great program down there in South Texas. So
let's go. Good Lord. Let's go. All right. Good stuff, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
So now that we got Tom's mic working, I think it's only appropriate we go to the birthday boy. It just took him a while. He was distracted. It's his birthday, and that's fine. Right, Tom?
Yeah. Now you got me okay?
We got you perfect. Yes.
All right. Well, in the past 2 weeks, we changed from Windows 10 to Windows 11, whole brand new computer.
Right.
And half of it all works. So this is my first time on a Zoom call.
Well, it's, the computers are the devil's handiwork. We know this. So you get a pass.
Well said.
All right. So page 46, dive business owners, when it's time to retire. So what's a business safety stop and when should owners use it? That's what you got in that article. What can you tell us, Tom?
Yeah. And I'm at that point, 87. Good golly, today. I've been to a meeting this morning with 100 local business people. It's Chamber of Commerce thing that they do every couple months, and they didn't know. They said, "How are you doing, Tom?" And I say, "Well, I'm doing just great. However, this thing that I live in is falling apart." At any rate, I have over the last couple of years looked at what's coming down the road. My mother passed away at 95, so I want to beat that if everything holds together. Well, that's okay, but I had to look at financially investments. What do I do do I retire? And I've decided now I'm going to slow down, but I'm not going to just turn it off. What would I do? Well, we'll have to think. So there are several decisions in that article. I give some guidance to decision making. If you retire, can you afford to retire? And part of it financial, part of it the physical and the mental side of it. And what's it going to be? You're going to have to make some decisions. I have a few years ago and just updated a family trust that puts everything I own into a trust, and it's really very clear in that when I fade away, what's going to happen in it. And I think those kinds of things are, when you get up to this age, those kinds of things are, that process is really important to do it effectively. And I guess that's primarily where I'm headed.
Yeah.
It's a great article too, Tom. Thank you for shedding some light on this. And Greg, we happen to have a very, very special guest with us today. And it's also on this exact same topic. In fact, this gentleman just retired 5 months ago after literally changing the entire dive industry. So we are so honored to have Tom Ingram on this call. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about what his life is like after retirement. And Tom, it's great to see you. Thank you for making our show.
He looks so less stressed.
Hey, I know. He's got a smile on his face.
My God, you look 10 years younger, Tom.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking about dyeing my hair. Doing something.
Going to be
blonde,
right?
platinum blonde.
Hair
That's what I've
long,
done.
right?
Yeah. Really. I'm going to go to the David Letterman approach to retiring a big old beard. I used to have a big old beard.
Well, at least you didn't throw the furniture out of the DEMA office off the roof, so that's good. So for those out there not familiar, Tom recently retired as CEO or what was the official CEO of the DEMA organization, which of course produces the DEMA show each year. And we are honored to have a few board members with us. Tom Leaird was a board member for about the same number of years I was, I think 12 or 13 or so with breaks. And Jeff Cinciripino here is on the board. And Dan Orr has been chairman of the board, at least for my 2 terms, and been a fantastic chairman. So thank you, Tom, for being here and tell us a little about life after DEMA. I mean, it goes really along with this article. What was your decision process as to why retire now?
Wow. So I'm 71 and my decision was really based around that and having some time to do some things that were sort of outside of the DEMA organization. But as Dan Orr is so fond of saying, I don't think I could ever retire. The only thing I've retired from is a paycheck. And so I'm in the midst of doing some things with the Historical Diving Society. So I saw Cathryn. Hi, Cathryn. How you doing? I was the chair of the board last year for HDS, and we've put in some programming things and some new personnel changes and those kinds of things over the last year. And I'm immediate past chair now, so I'm kind of toothless on this, but at the same time, I'm involved with some new projects. We've been involved in trying to put together a committee and have the committee moving along on capturing some of the oral histories that are in the diving industry. So that's something that we're aiming at and hope to see some results from that pretty quickly. I've been involved in photography for a long time, so I kind of took the reverse of Tom Leaird, who started out in photography and moved into diving, and so I went the other way. But my wife and I have been involved in doing some things here in Idaho, and again, I know Dan Orr does quite a bit of that stuff, and I see him fooling around out there with AI, more than fooling around, doing quite a bit of stuff with AI, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Yeah. But that's kept me fairly busy, that and my 3 kids and family and all of those fun things. So I've stayed pretty busy. I hope to continue to stay pretty busy all along the way and try to stay alert. And I got my fingers in some other things that are going on in the diving industry as well. So it's just been it's been nice to linger over a cup of coffee past 5:30 in the morning. Yeah. and that's probably the biggest benefit that I've had so far. But it's been nice, and as I said, like Tom and like Dan, I don't think any of us in this industry really ever get around to retiring too much, and I'm going to stay in that mode myself as long as I can. I'm still healthy, I'm still active, and so I'm going to continue to do that stuff.
Well, you have a home here always at the magazine.
Thank
and
you.
On our show, of course, but I would love for you to write some articles for us if you have time and you pick the topic, and when I'm going to make an open invitation on an open show here. So, and I love what you wrote, Tom Leaird, too, about Adventure Still Awaits. You said that you're heavily involved with the YMCA camp north of Muncie, you know, and do go 5-6 times a summer. I mean, I love that, still being engaged, and like, not like you, Dan. I mean, Dan, you've gone through 2 retirements, I think. I don't know how many, and yet you're still as active as ever. So it's really nice to see that you're putting those skills to work. I mean, you have a lifetime, both Toms, of experience in our industry, and I'm glad you're still contributing to. You know, it'd be kind of cool. Have you ever thought about running for the board, Tom Ingram?
Wow.
I saw the notice. I thought about
why not?
Yeah. You and I'd run against
Talk
each
about
other. It'd be kind of fun.
but I'm thinking the staff would be the ones jumping off the building.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So-
Well, and just so you know, everybody out there, the board of directors is open for nominations until, Dan, I think the 26th of this month. So if you're out there listening and have a desire to run for the board of directors, it's a great experience. I can attest to it. And so can several of the people on this call.
Yeah, could I just chime in and give my kudos to both Toms?
Yes.
The past couple of years, I've been doing a lot of writing and speaking about millennials, Gen Z, and the whole 9 yards, and it's wonderful to see some recognition of my generation who helped create this industry.
That's right.
And
These young kids have no idea what the hell came before them sometimes.
Whippersnappers.
So
Thank
keep
you,
up the
Alex.
good work, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for both of your time and your service, both of you.
Thanks.
All right, Greg.
Absolutely.
Let's rock
go
and
to
roll
Jeff. I think
to another
Jeff,
board member.
That's
actually,
right.
Active board member.
Jeff is up next, page 14. Don't suffer from FOA.
FOA.
Fear
Love
of
that.
accounting.
That's what I suffered from greatly, fear of accounting.
I
There's
still
nothing,
do.
Nothing struck fear in me more than a debit or a credit. But, as a small business owner, sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and learn a little bit about that stuff. And, it just didn't make sense to me. Well, wait a minute. If I'm debiting something, doesn't that mean that I'm lowering its value? Well, not really, because it depends on what type of an account it is. So, I had to overcome that fear. And I did that by taking on the bookkeeping responsibilities for the dive center. And I didn't want to do it, but that's how I addressed it. I went out and learned a little bit about how to apply a debit to a certain account and a credit. And this double entry stuff just didn't make sense to me. So you have to sit down and learn, and there's resources out there for people to utilize to learn. I'm a little old school. I like to have a book in front of me to learn things, and there's certainly a number of books out there that people can look at. Whether you grab the Accounting for Dummies books, we learn a lot from those books, or whether you look at some other accounting packages. The one that I liked was the Shams Outline, which I referenced in the article. It has a lot of examples that helps you walk through your different things. So, so I tried to provide a little bit of an example in the article on what happens when you buy a regulator. You purchase it, it goes into your inventory. How do you account for that? What gets credited? What gets debited? Because every transaction has to have one on each side. And then what happens when you sell it? Where does the money go? How does it get booked? And then finally, how do you account for the cost of it no longer being in your inventory? So it's a lot of moving parts that go into the bookkeeping. As business owners, we look at our balance sheet, our profit and loss statements a lot, but it's all based on sound bookkeeping principles. So this might not be the flashy stuff that we like in our industry, but it's fundamental business processes that are out there. A lot of courses online these days that you can go to. Some of them are free. Sometimes you got to be careful about free courses because you get what you pay for. There are other courses that you can do online to learn a little bit more about bookkeeping. But I think even if you're not going to do bookkeeping, the bookkeeping tasks in the business, understanding it is just going to make you a better business person and really, help to drive your business forward. So if you're like me and you have that fear of accounting, you got to jump in and just get over it.
Yes. Well, and when we go to the Atlantic City dive show this coming weekend in Jersey, don't take accounting advice from a guy on the corner. You go, hey, bud.
I got some good accounting in here, right? In my jacket.
I got some debits for you over
here. I got some debits for you, all right?
Just do me a favor. I'll do you a favor.
Listen, I love this series, Jeff, that you've been doing. Jeff has been writing a very tactical, just the nuts and bolts of the dive retail business. And Cathryn, see, you're already off the phone, but I didn't call it a shop, but off the call. But it's a great series, Jeff. I love it. Keep it up. I think that sometimes people need to be reminded that not everybody in this industry is competent at every aspect of being a dive retailer. And you're certainly giving them some basically 101, which I think is so needed.
Absolutely.
Maybe even 102. Maybe even 102.
There you go. All right. Gretchen's up next. She's usually our fitness guru, but I'm not sure if the article.
No, yeah, she still is. Believe it or not, that's just a typo on there.
Yeah.
So, your question you're going to ask her is, what does chili cook-offs have to do with dive shops, dive retailers?
Oh, that's right. What it is. Because I was going to say, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's a typo.
Okay.
Yeah. So you had to start with chili, right? Willie, the one food that you never want to eat before you go diving.
Yeah, exactly. Page 47.
That's not coming out of my regulator. Those bubbles.
Hey, as someone, for me, I have a hard time with surge. So if I don't take some Dramamine before a shore dive, doesn't matter what I ate. And I'm good at throwing up in my regulator. Not that I'm heavy, but I've had to get good at it over the years.
So I love this article because you're all about thinking outside the box for a dive retailer. And there are so many opportunities for them to expand and meet customers in different places than just at the front door. So talk a little about your concepts in this article, because I think every retailer should read it. It's fantastic.
Sure. So the article is mostly about, because I have a focus on fitness, the article is mostly about meeting people where they're already active, and looking at fitness as a gateway to connecting with divers, because fit folks are already going to have some things that really align with diving activities and the enjoyment of diving. The doors that open to help you meet those folks are things that are right in your community. And Willie mentioned the chili cook-off. Well, that's the kind of thing that a lot of times the Chamber of Commerce would host. Maybe they host a Renaissance fair. Whatever kind of activity they're hosting for the community, all the businesses are going to come out and have their booths there and offer something. And so you're going to meet the folks from the local fitness center or the local personal training studio or the local sporting goods store, or somebody like Cross Kicks who comes out and does a booth at, the dive show. They're also going to be at community events like 5K runs and marathons. And, if you set your booth up in between one guy who's selling heart rate monitors and another guy who's selling sneakers and another guy who's leading hikes in the mountains, then you're in a place where you have other people that are going to have folks that have the same kinds of interests that would attract them to scuba diving. And to take it a step farther, I am always encouraging everyone to work out and exercise to be fit for diving. And if you're participating already in a yoga class or a Pilates class, or you go to the gym at the same time every, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, you're meeting a lot of the same people, and you have a community of folks there and a circle of folks there who you can get to know and who can discover diving and who are already going to be more physically and mentally prepared to come in and participate in the sport. And they're likely to have an adventurous spirit, and they're likely to, they want to buy the gear and the things that they need to participate in different, active, fun activities. And so that's kind of the gist of the article. There's a lot of examples in there, everything from, your local chiropractor to talking to your physician, about what you do and what your business is and making connections with those folks.
And Gretchen, thank you for this great article. It's also an absolute perfect introduction to our very next article, because it's exactly what this is all about, the strategy behind what your article is telling a retailer to do. And, in honor of Tom being on, Tom Ingram being on this call still, what you just outlined, Gretchen, was exactly what the Be a Diver pool tour did with Dave Riedenbach all those years. For 20 plus years, they went to places where people were that were likely to have interest, and it was anything from the state fair to rallies or whatever it was, and it was just because divers are everywhere. It's just a matter of being exposed to diving. So having a booth at a chili cook-off is a brilliant idea.
Yeah. I used to actually say be a fit diver during those years, because I've been talking about this since 2000. So whatever, and if you don't know if you don't think, or you're skeptical about how this connection can make a difference, look at me. I'm the opposite of that. I stepped out of fitness and into the diving community, right? And look here, I'm with you now.
Yes, and I hope your sessions went well on Saturday. You were a speaker this last weekend in Long Beach at the Scuba Show, so I hope it went well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that leads us to David and Lily.
Yeah. So what Gretchen's article is ties directly into ours on networking. So for a dive center, their networking goal should accomplish two major things. First is to drive customers to the dive center, and also to connect with resources that could help expand their business. So a successful dive center shouldn't just wait for customers to come into their dive center, but they need to be proactive to invest time to go out, find both certified divers and potentially new divers to direct to their business. So there are many certified divers that have fallen out of the sport, that have been inactive for years, and they can be nudged to get active again at your center. So the same holds true also for non-divers who just want to try out the sport and don't have that segue, such as talking to a dive professional, to get started on a path to dive certification.
Right. Sometimes it takes just a spark. Getting scuba certified was not on my list of things to do until my college roommate called me and said out of the blue, just, hey, you want to go learn scuba diving in Florida? And I said, okay, I like snorkeling, so I'll go ahead and do it. But once I got certified and when I came back home to Dallas, I happened to meet a dive center owner who invited me to come out to the lake that weekend, and he even supplied me with free scuba gear to use. And after enjoying a camaraderie of the dive group for that weekend, I was hooked and advanced all through their recreational certifications to master scuba diver, before then becoming a dive professional with that dive center. All it took was an invitation from a friend to get started, and then networking by a dive center owner to offer me a reason to come out and experience his dive family. And I became a loyal customer, and eventually led me to becoming a master instructor. All of this wouldn't have happened if the dive center owner hadn't been inviting with his networking approach.
So we talked to many people who want to try scuba diving, but they just didn't have the opportunity to try it either through, because of their location, their job, or family situation. But it helps to have that contact through our conversations at various networking events, or even chance encounters, like for example, our neighborhood wine tasting event that we had. People people find out we're scuba divers, and they want to know more about it. How do they get into it? And they ask us a lot of questions, and then we highlight the process to them and direct them to the local dive center to contact, follow up with questions, and to even sign up for classes or even a Discover Scuba session that they weren't even sure, if they weren't sure or they weren't even aware of. But the point is just making that connection. And this is why dive center professionals need to get out and network, so that they can provide this kind of interaction with potential new divers and existing divers.
Yeah, well, going to dive-centric events has a higher probability of attracting new customers and maybe getting your business name out into the community. You can also attract new businesses at networking events that attract adventurous people, sort of like what Gretchen was referring to. I call it adventure because that's what they're out there looking for. This can be travel-related events or other sports, especially water-related sports or boating. There are quite a few dive centers I know that sell both scuba and snow skiing gear because these are adventurous people that like to get out and travel and see the world. They just need a segue to get into scuba diving, and you can be that Sparke. Wear your scuba center shirt with a big scuba instructor sign on the back of it, and see how many people approach you about diving because you happen to be there, and that's something they're interested in. So you can answer their questions and get them started on their next hobby. Like we said before, there's lots of certified divers who started young, but then careers and family got in the way, and they put the scuba on the back burner. But once the kids are raised, then now they have some more time to get back into scuba diving, but they just need a spark that you can provide when you are out there networking and meeting these folks, to get them back into the business. So make time to attend events where you can direct new customers to your dive center or find new resources or connections that can expand your business. Participate in local dive clubs and their activities, like environmental cleanups, but also give presentations to schools to get youth excited about scuba diving. And then they can go bug their parents about scuba diving lessons. And I like what Gil said in our article, and also I would appreciate all the Scuba Diving Industry Magazine contributors that contributed to this article.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a great article. A lot of great stuff in
an
there.
Event that might significantly affect your business.
Yeah, that's so well said and so true. Thank you both for a great article. I know you've been writing a lot about travel, so it's kind of nice to see a little difference, but it was fantastic. And those two articles go hand in hand, Gretchen's and yours. So thank you both for really
I've
well
always said, based in Orlando, Florida, all the people I'm around, I'm like, look, we're in Florida. You're surrounded by water. Take the hint.
Exactly. There's a lot of diving. I think I did a survey when I worked at ProDive a million years ago, and I just did a phone survey. I think I called like randomly 50 people out of the phone book, right? And it was 23% of them had either been or were an active diver or had been scuba diving before in South Florida. 23%. It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we got it right here, and all you got to do is invite them sometimes.
And we've got a new contributor.
We got a newbie.
Not new to you, not new to Scuba Radio.
She's one of our regular contributors to Scuba Radio. What's going down with Brittany Brown?
Happy to have her on our show.
Thank you very much.
Brittany, how are you? Good to see you
Thank
again.
You.
All right, so she has written her first article for Scuba Diving Industry Magazine, page 36. Cape Eleuthera Resort, a land-based operator that is anchored there in the Bahamas. And so what was it like, and why is it an ideal dive resort for scuba divers? Brittany, tell us.
Well, this was such a great option if you've already done a lot of the resorts in the Bahamas that are very popular and you want to kind of find something new and exciting. I would highly recommend the Cape Eleuthera Resort and Marina.
Yeah, it's much, I don't know, sometimes we get the impression that dive resorts are a little bit more rustic. That is not the case for this particular location in the Bahamas, right?
No, not at all. And it had a lot to offer. It had a shark dive, which is very common with a lot of the Bahamian islands, but it also had a wall that was very close to the resort that fell off, and these beautiful vistas. And then also the shallow dives were incredible too. So if you have a dive group and you have all different skill sets and levels of divers, this is the kind of place that offers a lot. So
let's say
for deep dive.
Right, you have great dives, just like they have all throughout the Bahamas. But if you have someone in your group that's a little more bougie,
that as well. I was getting to that.
Like me. The accommodations.
Bougie Greg.
I've been called that by my family. I don't know where that came from. But regardless, I mean, the accommodations there at Cape Eleuthera are really, really nice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So imagine just opening your eyes in the morning, and the second that you look out, all you see is just the ocean. That's it.
Beautiful.
That's exactly how their resort is set up, and it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, but
So
it's like,
what most
yeah, go ahead, Willie.
what most people don't realize is there's not a lot of true dive resorts in the Caribbean. There's diving everywhere, of course, great diving, but there's not a lot of places where you are staying at the same place your boat departs from, where your restaurant and your bar is, a true dive resort. Anthony's Key Resort comes to mind, Small Hope Bay and Andros and Cape Eleuthera is right in there with those very small collections. They have a lot of them, say, on the island of Bonaire and a few in Curacao, but you get outside of there, there's not a lot of dedicated real resorts that are just where you can get out in the morning and roll, not have to get on a bus to go someplace else or take a trip or whatever to catch your boat. It's just really nice that it's all right there together, and it's kind of flown under the radar for a long time. I know Neil Watson used to be involved with them back in the day. In fact, I think his son ran the dive operation many years ago. But we've had him on our show, on our other podcasts, and they're just the nicest people that run that operation. And they're also a supporter of our magazine. So thank you for that too.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So you obviously had a pretty good time when you were there on island and plan to go back soon, I assume, and take me.
Yeah, definitely. If you're used to, say, Little Cayman divers in Little Cayman or Cayman Brac, it's very similar to that. And they're really trying to create an atmosphere where photographers can come. There's going to be a whole entire area solely for photographers. There's going to be a tech area. So they're really trying to cater to people's specific needs.
And that's a good point. You're right. There's several places in Cayman that are like that, and Ocean Frontiers is like that too, out at East End, and a bunch of them downtown Sunset, so on. Anyhow, great article, and thank you. And if you're a dive retailer out there listening and you're interested in putting a group together, you can email Brittany. She's QR codes on the article. I'm glad she'd be happy to give you some more pointers. But you can also reach out to Justin or Kat over at the resort, and I know they'd love to work with you. And it's definitely a different trip to put on your list.
Definitely. And I just want to add one extra thing as well, is that you don't always just have to stay in those villas. If you'd like, they have cottages. If you have a family, maybe a family of 4 or something, they do have cottages that have 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. So it can be a group vibe, or you can have a very romantic setting. They've got a plethora of different options.
Yeah. Beautiful area.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Good stuff, Brittany. What's going down with Brittany Brown?
Last but not least, Greg.
Yes.
We are honored to have the communications director for let me get the exact name correct here. It's the Reef. Oh, I already blew it, Tom.
You got off to a good start. Reef Environmental Education Foundation.
That's it.
Or Reef for short. Reef's easy.
Right.
Thanks.
Well, Tom Sparke, and they're involved with the Great American or Great Annual Fish Count. Been doing it for years with Reef, right? Is that right, Tom? Yeah.
Yeah. So Reef actually started 3 decades ago by Ned Deloach and the late Paul Heumann. Many of you may be familiar. I think
absolutely.
Pretty much every dive shop in the world has the Fish ID book with their names on the front. So they had this grand big idea that they'll be the first to admit they didn't really know what they were doing when they set out on this journey, and the goal was really to get regular divers giving them a purpose to their diving by giving them a dive slate and materials, fish identification materials, to really build a citizen science program. That citizen science program now has turned into the largest marine life database in the world. I think we're up to over 320,000 surveys just by regular divers. And it's pretty incredible. It could be anyone. If you could just ID one fish on the reef, that's great. We want your data. Or we also have some experts out there that have done 3,000-4,000 surveys, and would really, really put shame to any marine scientist. I actually used to work on Little Caymans, so I know the Caymans pretty well. And I used to do surveys for the research station out there, and I used to think I was pretty good. And then I actually met some of these people in the reef community, and they could identify the tiniest little difference between these different gobies. So, but the idea is really that anyone can get involved. And then we have this big push in July. It's called the Great Annual Fish Count. So whilst you can do surveys all year round, the Great Annual Fish Count really is focused on getting dive shops involved, providing fish identification classes. It's a great way to kind of broaden the community and get new people involved, whether they're brand new divers and they're just looking to have a purpose and give back. in terms of conservation, or really to, reactivate some of those divers that maybe have been diving many times and they want to, some turn to photography, some might want to turn to surveying. And we have a lot of people in our community that are now diving more than they ever have because they get addicted to surveying and finding new cryptic fish. So there's dive shops that have been involved in the Florida Keys. We have a lot of dive shops. We have some in Bonaire, St. Martin. We have one in the Red Sea, in Bali. So it truly is a global event, and any dive shop can get involved. We'll help promote those fish ID classes and dives. And again, it's just a great way to kind of get new divers or even existing customers through the door and on dive boats.
Yeah, a way to kick it up a notch, especially for a dive shop, taking them out to the same dive sites every weekend. Like, hey, we're going to do something special this weekend. Participate in the great annual fish count.
I love it. I love it.
I've seen it, and you learn so much when you participate with those groups. Like you said, even someone like you who was pretty well versed at identifying fish. You just hang out with a few of these fish counters, and you will learn something on the surface interval between the dives about this particular critter or that one. It's impressive stuff.
So, Tom, does the fish count include freshwater as well?
It doesn't. No, it's only marine based. By all means, you could be one of the first, but yeah, Reef's database is just focused on marine life.
And I'm just curious because, the vast majority of the United States doesn't have an ocean to dive in. And, there are far probably more inland dives that take place in the summertime than there are dives that take place even in the ocean. I'm just guessing there's no science for that, but I'm just based on the distribution population and where dive shops, are located. Very few can actually go to the coast and dive in the ocean. So I was just curious.
That's right. Come to Indiana.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Diving paradise. Can't wait. I want to go someday so bad up there. So Greg, I'm the last to go. Thank you, Tom. And by the way, if you're a dive retailer out there, reach out to Tom. He's QR coded on this. He's hyperlinked in all the digital versions. And I'm sure he'd be glad to help get your shop plugged in to being able to get involved with this very important citizen science program, Fish Count.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Willie.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, it's reef.org, I believe, right?
Yes.
Is that the website? There you go.
It is one of the easiest URL codes out there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget it.
Right.
Thanks again for Tom. Great article. And, I'd love to have more from you in the future.
Absolutely.
So I wrote 2 articles this month, Greg. The first one was on page 24, the first quarter global survey results. I've been doing this survey for believe it or not, it's our 26th year of conducting these quarterly surveys. We average between 100 and 150 responses, and it can be anywhere from 8 to 12 countries sometimes respond. It's not a large survey. It's never been a large survey, but it's a consistent survey. We've asked the same questions every single quarter for 26 years. So, and it does give a pretty accurate look-see at what has happened in the last quarter at a very broad strokes level. And then we asked, most importantly, it's the only forecasting that we do in our industry because we ask what is going to happen in the next quarter. What do you believe? And when we line up those two within 5%, they are exactly as what people generally say. Because when someone says, I think I'm going to do a little better next quarter based on bookings, based on what I see right now, based on traffic, 9 times out of 10, 9.9 out of 10, it's exactly what it was. There's a few times. The biggest change would have been from fourth quarter to first quarter this year. No one knew we were going to be involved in a war that was going to affect the Red Sea, which is a massive diving destination for Europe, and most importantly, affect Doha, which is the main thoroughfare from the Western world to get to the Southeast Asia. So even though the fourth quarter showed a increase in certifications, open water. Now, just for a caveat, we can only forecast certifications in the United States because we know what the database with a fair degree of accuracy is of retailers. I can't do it for the rest of the world because we really don't know how many retailers are around the world. I mean, I've got a list of 17,000 that shows about 6,000 retailers, but you can't really, you just start getting fuzzy math outside the United States. The one thing you can do is you can say, well, if the United States represents X market share of the world dive market share, you can come up with some fairly accurate extrapolations on that regard. But we showed fourth quarter there was a spike in in certification, open water certifications for the industry. And then the forecast was going to be a really strong first quarter in travel, because usually what happens is the certifications are our pipeline, and from that comes equipment sales and travel. You got to have that pipeline to have those other two, and they're all very interrelated. And unfortunately, because of what occurred in the first quarter, that war broke out right in January, we saw a drop in almost everything across the board with retailing. And I just had a call recently with a local retailer, and they reflected the same thing, that they've had a really soft first quarter. The good news is the pipeline is projected for second quarter for certifications to be up over last year, same time. That's the most important projection probably out of the entire survey, because that is the forecasting tool that drives travel and equipment sales as well. So that's a little bit of a glimmer in a relatively down survey. One thing about our surveys is that we don't we try to interpret them as best we can to help people understand what the trends are saying. But, at the end of the day, not everybody reflects that list. So are those results. The second article I wrote it's the fifth in a 12-part series I've been working on that I'm really proud of. It's called Delivering an Extraordinary Service. And this was really born out of my years working with Stewart and other operators all throughout the Caribbean, and helping them on a consulting basis of how to improve their systems, how to improve their customer service. Because ultimately, it comes down to, if you can't keep your customers happy, they're not going to return. So at the end of the day, everything you do in a dive operation, and it seems the same as for a retailer, it comes down to your customer service. If you can't take care of your customers, you can't make them happy, they're not gonna tell their friends. And there's the old adage, a disgruntled person tells 10 people, a happy person tells 3. So, it's really, really important. So, and also another fact that remains is that there is no training for the owners of Cape Eleuthera. There is no training for Ocean Frontiers owners. There's no training for Small Hope Bay. They can't send somebody to school to learn how to run a dive operation, a tropical dive operation. They can't. That doesn't exist. The only training that exists is to teach you how to be an instructor. And they're darn good at doing that. I don't care which agency you're at. They all teach you how to be a great instructor, how to have very, very low problems with your students. And most instructors never even have to deal with an accident their entire life. So, we have a great training system. The problem is when you move from the training environment to the experience environment, you're talking about going from college to Disneyland. They're two completely different experiences. When you get on the ride at Disneyland, the guy doesn't try to show you how to hit the emergency brake on the ride. Of course not. That's not their god. They're just going to give you a ride. They have a great experience. Same thing on a boat, or you go to rent a car at Avis. You'd be completely appalled if the guy said, "Well, okay, show me how to check the oil and check the tires before you leave." Right? Well, you assume the oil's full. You assume the tires are full. The gas tank's probably full too. So, these are assumptions. Yet we require every diver to check all of these items. And there's nothing wrong with doing it as a safety check. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about lots of times is it check your gear on the boat. Make sure you got a full tank before we leave the dock. How many times have you heard that? Everybody's heard that, right?
Yep.
That's the stupidest thing you could possibly say, no offense, because your job is to make sure that tank is full. Yes, they should check it for safety. Absolutely. And they should check all that stuff. And the dive master should be there to help them if you need help. But the other side of the coin is sitting back and watching people, all right, put your gear together for me. Well, what if you just came off the Galapagos trip for a week and all you do is live aboard diving, and all they do is put your gear together for you every time before you go in the water? So, in other words, you can learn far more by just simply talking to somebody. And there's no training for this kind of customer service. So this is what this 12-part series is about. I'm hoping it'll put it into a book form at some point, but it's great. And this article was about having your boat ready. And that is just such a simple thing, but there's so much a clean, tidy boat that's stocked correctly and the staff are ready. It says to the customer, there's a psychological thing that occurs in everybody's back of your brain, and it comes from the dinosaur days, and you can't articulate it, but it travels from person to person. And you've probably seen it at the airport's a classic example. A nasty gate agent creates this terrible environment, a toxic environment many times at a gate or even on a plane. And then all of a sudden problems start occurring, and many times it's because that one person is just given off this toxic feeling or has said something nasty to somebody, and all of a sudden now you're thinking, well, this is really not good service, So the same thing occurs at a dive operation. When you have a boat that's clean and the rinse bin's full, the extra gear is already on board, the captain's in uniform, he's got a name tag on, the dive guides are doing the same, and they're standing there waiting for the customer to arrive. They're not running up the dock with their egg sandwich in their hand because they didn't get a chance to have breakfast that morning. It speaks volumes to the customer. And it also it creates an open dialogue of communication. And that is probably the most important thing, is so that a customer feels comfortable, then they can talk to a dive guide. And guess what they talk about? I'm really not feeling great this morning. I had my dive yesterday, and I did terrible on my buoyancy. I don't know what the problem is. Those are the kind of things that are accident prevention. Mm-hmm. And that only happens if you have a good, open, clean relationship between the customer and the dive guide. So I can go on forever about this because I'm really passionate about it, but it's a great series. Read it. It's on page the next article. They're only one pagers. They're easy to read. It's on page 26.
Well, great stuff as always, Will.
Thank you. It's great. We've got a great issue lined up for tomorrow, for next month. We've got a series on Komodo by Mark Hatter, the guy that did that over-under shot of the big wreck in Kwajalein back in January. He's done another one on the Cayman Islands. I've got Alex has got some really great stuff on sustainability. Dan Orris continuing his really needed safety series. Gil's writing actually another installment of his blue article that he's written for us. We've got some other great stuff lined up. So if you're a writer out there, a contributor, because we're over 70 contributors so far. Our deadline is on the 15th for each month. So June is June 15th. Get those articles in. And if you would like to write for us, reach out to us. You can connect in any number of ways. By the way, last thing I want to say is the poster that Dan made up will be linked in the comments box for this article, for this podcast. So you can just click on it and download it for lobster mini season. Be careful out there, right, Dan?
Willie?
Be safe on every dive.
Willie, can I add one? If you go to the scubafit.com website, go to articles, California Diver, under California Diver, there's an excellent workout to prepare for lobster season. It's called the Fast Track program for getting ready for lobster season, because people might wait till the last minute. I've given them a 4-week program, and it's available there every year since 2011. So go find it. It'll be really helpful.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, Gretchen.
Be safe on every dive.
Absolutely.
And it's really, and I know we got to go here, but it's really, truly an issue. I mean, I used to fall victim to that. I mean, you get in that hunter seeker mode. You only got an hour supply of lobster. You got an hour supply. It's like treasure diving almost, and you just kind of throw all caution in the wind. You don't even check your air half the time. You're kind of done when you go, oh, I guess it's time to be done for the dive.
Right. Not ideal, really. Yeah, but you have a tendency to lose focus. When you're going really after those bugs, because they are so tasty. I'm actually getting hungry.
I know. I love lobster, Florida lobsters. Anybody got any last closing comments before we wrap up?
See you in Atlantic City, maybe. Yeah. I'll look forward to seeing everybody there at the East Coast.
And Tom Ingram, thanks for being our special guest. No need to there you are. Thanks for being our special guest, and really honored to have you on our show today.
Thank you. Good to see you all.
All right, Greg, I guess that's going to wrap us up.
I think it will. That'll do it for this month's edition of the Level Up podcast. Till next time, remember, it is always better. Where, Willie?
It's down where it's wetter.
Yeah.
This has been Level Up, the podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Produced by Scuba Radio and the Cline Group. For more info, go to scubadivingindustry.com.